Hello and welcome to Upload,
A podcast by those who upload, for those who want to.
or who already do.
And anyone else for that matter.
My name is Lionheart and I've been creating content for over a decade.
And my name's Midgeman, and I've been trying to create content for almost a decade.
Together with some of our friends and fellow content creators, we're going to be exploring the great big world of content creation.
We'll be looking into the serious topics that face content creators today.
Because if someone said that to me, like, in person, or said that kind of stuff to me, you know, IRL, I wouldn't take it. So why would I take it, like, online? Why would I hide aspects of sort of my identity?
As well as some less serious topics.
I've been blindsided by the fact that one of your old live streams is called Suck My Missile for like the last
Sorry,
10
what?
minutes.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Upload.
Hello and welcome to Upload, the content creator podcast for those who upload, for those who want to, and everyone in between. My name is Midgeman.
And I'm Lionheart.
But before we get on with today's episode, remember to like, subscribe, review, rate, and turn on any auto-downloaders wherever it is you are listening from, or coming to us from, or whatever. And you can also reach out to the podcast if you want to say hi, if you've got any questions, that kind of way, either in our YouTube comments or via our email. hello@uploadpodcast.co.uk. And remember from last week, send in your setups as well, because we're going to be looking at those. Send in your
review.
gear. Oh yeah, we want to do a review episode. I definitely want to do the other episode concept. I'm going to float it at people in this episode, and I want to see what the comment reaction is on YouTube. We should do some, like, go on to some various Reddits, like subreddits, like r/content creators, and answer like questions from there, or r/setup reviews, and just like look at do some r/reads.
We should probably kick off the setup reviews as well next time by looking at ours, which means I need to heavily dust mine.
We'll do the
There is so much dead skin everywhere.
No, so I think I mentioned in the last, it was one of the episodes recently, I mentioned that I've bought a Hoover dedicated for this
your
office,
dedicated one, yeah.
because it gets so dusty in here that I get so upset, and with a lot of black furnishings and electronics, it just shows up.
Sleek black desks are lovely, look really, really nice, but Christ, did they just pull in every single speck of everything.
One of the really nice things though about the Magnus Pro is the toppers they give with it. It's like a big magnetic leather.
Oh, it's a mat, isn't it? That's kind of, sits across the whole thing.
The full size mat is all magnetic on one side.
Does it sit across the full, like largely the full bit of
everything
the desk?
But the back tray.
The back tray. Yeah,
it's
I'm
mental.
still waiting on update from my plasterer to get in, and then I can start ordering some toys.
But I actually use like leather cleaner on it, like as in that you'd use on a leather sofa, and that's been
just use a little bit of that, and it seems to work. Yeah,
lovely,
nice.
Lovely little spray.
I will be coming to you for your Secret Lab Magnus maintenance tips.
I can't wait for the episode of this where we go to, like, we do a live one from your new.
Yes, definitely.
We have to do that.
I thought you were going to say, like, we do one while I'm doing, like, mid-setup. I'm like, I'm just trying to, how does this screw in?
Oh, that would be quite funny. I'm just roving camera, like we do roving camera podcast episode where I've just got a microphone and you're just stressed trying to rebuild your setup.
Stressed, I'm just sweating and just dripping and just
trying to put a graphics card in. Should we talk about today's episode? So today's episode is going to be, we're going to talk about audio. Now, it's really frustrating. I'm going to caveat this, that audio for me is one of my favorite things, but it is the thing even I get wrong all the time. Normally because it's out of my own hands, but also too, sometimes I've done dumb stuff. For example, you will have heard probably 2-3 podcast episodes ago, I did an intro where I said, yes, sorry about the coming audio on this episode of the podcast. Something bad happened where Windows had switched all of my gain controls on all of the virtual lines coming from my mixer. Therefore, I sounded like I was in a tin can to everyone. And that was after we fixed it.
I had a very similar experience actually Tuesday. What day is it? Thursday. Tuesday, yes, 2 days ago. I have no idea what time is. What is it? It's like, I plan my days of the week by checking my Twitch schedule of what have I set for the week. I'm like, oh, it's cool. It says it's this day. Like, if that ever went down, I'd be screwed. I wouldn't know what day it was. But I had a similar audio issue. I had a Google Meets call, actually talking to Holy, where we've renewed for another 6 months. Yay! But yeah, I had a Google Meet call with them. Finished the call, went straight on to do a stream, and had gone live. And we sorted to people, and someone just kind of came in chat and went, "Oh, the game sounds really loud." And I was like, looking at the bars on OBS, going like, "That sounds about right." Then I was like, and then I looked at the bar above, which is my microphone audio monitoring, and I was like, "Well, that's not kind of quite going as far into the yellow as I would expect. It should just drop off just before it gets to the red. Maybe just like every so often, just go over the red, just a smidge where I know it's. But because I've got a compressor on it, it'll bring it down." Because I find that monitoring actually doesn't reflect any filters that you've put on it.
No, it doesn't often.
Because sometimes I'm like, I've put a noise suppression. It shouldn't be doing that. And I'm like, it's fine. And the number of times I sneeze and I see it go poof on OBS, and I'm like, that shouldn't be caught in it. But then I check the recording afterwards and it's suppressed down because it doesn't take into account filters. So it does that like a split millisecond after it's processed in real time or what have you. But I was like, why is that a bit lower? And I was thinking, oh, great. Now I've got audio issues, which is, yeah, probably what we're going to get more into today. And it's that dread, because audio issues so many different things can cause the slight. We mentioned it before when we talked about audio on the podcast. I found out that having my PS5 plugged in the same like room as my PC setup, because I was doing a stream from the console, caused an intermittent high-pitched whine from the power. Obviously, whatever the converter, transform, whatever is in the PS5, that emits a high-pitched noise that the human ear can't really hear, but the sensitivity of our microphones can, and it picks it up. And I was like, why can I hear that and I can now hear that in the recording because the mic's picked it up and is now processing that. And I was like, that's really annoying. And that's the thing with audio. Once you've heard it, like you have to be the most, I don't know, resolute of creators to be able to be like, I can ignore that, because I guarantee the vast majority go nope. And the frustrating thing is, chat mean well, and they'll be like, forget about it, don't worry, sort it out later. It's like, I can't sort it out later now. I have to sort it out now. Even if this tanks the rest of my stream time, I need to sort this out now. So I was in that mode thinking, crap, I'm going to now lose my afternoon of streaming, troubleshooting this foxy bit. I checked my Go XLR settings, they're all right. I checked the gain, and then thankfully I'd only spent a couple of minutes at this point, and I went, you know what, I'm just going to check one thing, because I thought of you talking about Windows settings, and I was like, I'm just going to go see what it goes. I went sounds, went recording devices, double clicked on my chat mic, went to levels, and it sets to 55 because Google Meet overrides your global Windows settings and does automatic gain control. And so, top tip, if you ever do a Google Meet voice call afterwards, even if you've maybe disabled the automatic change settings, go check your Windows sound settings afterwards and make sure it's set back up to 100% or whatever. Also, I don't know about you, but I know some people say, oh, why don't you just permanently control it in Windows, like bring it down there? I would always say in Windows, have everything maxed out.
So I found an opposite. Found an opposite thing with that, actually. The thing that I've noticed, and because this is when I did a deep dive to fix my microphone, they say leave everything at 53 to 54, because 54 in Windows terms, like if you're on the slider, if it's out of 100, 53 to 54, if you flip it to decibels, that's neutral, zero gain on decibels. So actually, if you've got a Go XLR and you've got a Rode or anything with
I'm not saying like absolute nuggets of wisdom right now, because I'm quickly changing over another audio issue of a hot swappable battery. So if you just told me what the meaning of life was, I'm going to have to listen to this back.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's the reason why it's 42.
Damn it! Not again.
No, so if you've got anything with a preamp, a Go XLR, etc., you want that to be the thing that's controlling your gain. So the problem we were having is one of the lines for me was down to 13. One of them was up to 93. And then 60 decibels of gain, I was hearing the plus like 93 line, and you were all hearing the plus 13 line. But the recording then had the 93 line, I'm pretty sure, or something ridiculous anyway. But a free piece of software that is actually something that I really like, that if Windows ever switches your sound devices, there is a free piece of software by the name of Sound Switch. I'm going to put it in the chat here. Maybe it will get brought up. It doesn't matter if it's not. I will try to make sure it's linked in the description of this episode. It's a device that you can, it's a little program that you can set up, and you can set your sound settings. You can actually set multiple profiles, but what I have it is, so it automatically sets all of my audio lines. So if I open a program that will change audio lines, I have a link in my taskbar that I just click and it switches all my audio lines back in Windows. So for example, if I open Rode Unify to change some settings instead of my Rode Central, which runs the Procaster 2, I can click that and it goes boom, it changes all the settings in Windows. Or if I've turned on a pair of headphones that hasn't been connected in for a while and it's like, oh, I'm going to take over all of the sound devices, you click that and it goes all the way back. And it's honestly, it's been such a lifesaver for me.
Does it allow you to set hotkeys to switch between
Yes.
two different devices? Right, because I use a very old bit of software called Audio Switcher, which is also the same thing, but basically I wanted hotkeys to switch between my speakers and my headphones without having to go right click, set as default, to switch between the two different or select it. And then I found Audio Switcher, and I think it was built for Windows 7 initially. So I've been using it since then to now, but every so often it stops working and stops switching. And you have to then wipe all your hotkeys and put them back in again, which is it's hardly a thing. But I've just got to the point where I can't be bothered to reset it. So at the moment I have to switch manually again. But I'm going to try sound switching because that sounds like it's probably more regularly updated and a bit more with it.
I haven't had to update it, but it's one of the biggest banes of audio is Windows priority more than anything. If you're audio with a Windows PC.
Because even if you tell it not to be the priority controller, it still just has a mind of its own and every so often just goes, no, I'm going to change it. Like, well, I again said previously, every so often I have to check the balance level on my speakers because it will decide that the left channel wants to be at 20 and the right channel wants to be at 36. And I'm like, why am I going deaf? Like what's going on? For me personally, I find setting everything to 100 in Windows because then I know everything's like, because I would rather have it either 0 or 100 just so that I know there's no in between. And then I would prefer to, I say this now, I'd prefer to then use something I consider perhaps more reliable like GoXLR software. But I would prefer to then try and control everything else that I then want to do to it through GoXLR. Because I know some people as well say, oh, do you not adjust stuff in OBS? And I'm like, actually, I prefer not to touch anything slider-wise in OBS because I'd rather do it before it gets in there. I want to reduce more points of failure. Like if I tweak stuff in Windows to 75, if I then set GoXLR to 80, and I then set OBS to 20, I'm like, no, let's just set OBS to 100, Windows to 100, and let GoXLR be the control unit. Considering that is the primary mixer and everything's going in or out of that anyway, let's just limit the number of different places where I'm basically limit the number of places where I have to go through and check stuff. Also, just screw you, Google Meets. Stop changing my settings, please.
It's app priorities, app controls, and half the times apps don't mean to. There's just one of those things of they're built for an infrastructure where people don't have a mixer to control all of their audio, and that they are just, oh, it's someone's connected their headphones, they want to use the headphones kind of thing. Also, I agree. I like having a mixer as a central point of control because it's tactile as well. You can see it physically and you can move it physically. It's one of those things that you're not just clicking through menus. Is this going to fix it? And I think that's just kind of that's my lizard brain goes, yes, slide up means good, slide down means turn down. Like
up means more, down means low, off. Yeah.
Actually, just as a fun thing, I did a broadcast last night. I was doing a broadcast all yesterday. So the first thing of a new show that I'm running with Lath and Redhawk. We're doing like a little esportsy
Parabellum, right?
Yeah, Parabellum, yeah. So I'm doing all the production on the back end of that. And there was one moment I accidentally, just because natural me clicking when to go live on something, I unmuted my mic, which was meant to stay muted as just I can talk to you through.
Oh, and then you said all those horrible things.
And I just went,
no.
and we're live. And everyone heard it. And then also I said, I'm going to be coming to you in a moment. We don't have that sort of thing. Like, and then I looked over. I was like, I'm unmuted. And I got a message from Ben, as in Benjamin Magnus, streamer friend of ours, also worked at Paradox. He's just like, hey, I think you were unmuted for a minute there. I was like, oh, okay, yes, I was. Thank you. Whoops. Good. It's a thing. But again, yeah, it's one of those things of that is just me. That's my lizard brain going, yes, you wanted to unmute, right?
It's perfectly normal in live production to hear voices in your head, guys, okay?
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Especially my voice. If you're hearing my voice in your head, can I have that back? I lost it a while ago.
check your tabs that you don't have like some of his content open, because if you are hearing his voice and you don't have any of his content open, then please do seek medical advice.
Let's just talk through like the history of how like we've done audio. So when I first started, and on the note of started content creating, I actually hid 2,000 of my videos.
You hid 2,000?
I put them on private because I've just been like trying to like I'm trying some algorithmic stuff, and I was just like, I'm gonna hide loads of the old content that doesn't make sense much for the channel anymore.
Are you just thinking that like the occasional view on those potentially does more damage than it's worth?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
I kept every series that the first 3 episodes had above a certain threshold. So if like for me it was like, okay, especially with the Let's Play content, it was like, okay, if the first 4 episodes have above 3k views, that's still okay in like a channel of my size. But anything where it's 150 episodes of 200 view content with a really whiny audio, let's probably get rid of it. Like, I've got it for posterity. I can go back and watch it. I could also re-release it if I wanted to. And the reason that inspired me to do it is I had a video flop this week, and I went back and I looked at the suggested videos coming off of it, and they were all really, really random. They were really strange. YouTube tried to push it to really random places. And some of my other content, my edited content that I've done, went back and was trying to link to Let's Plays as well. And it was like one of those things of, probably shouldn't be doing that. Let's try and guide my content a bit more. But the thing I noticed going back was, oh my gosh, my audio back then as well was terrible. I thought it was decent, but my God.
I go back, I say I go back. It's more people find my first video and comment on it going, oh, this is where it all started. And I'm like, oh God, yeah, no, this is... I didn't know what to do with the audio settings, and obviously there was nowhere near the amount of configurable options, so you couldn't make it sound better anyway. But it's also just the fact that I wasn't used to speaking and commentating, so there's so many pauses. I don't know what I'm doing with things like noise suppression or everything, so you could just hear every single minute bit of saliva moving around as you talk, because the microphones are super sensitive. Yeah, I mean, also just like the recording stuff at the time, you wouldn't get particularly high audio recording levels and stuff, and meeting that all up, and you wouldn't know what to do with it. But yeah, I mean, I go back to that video every so often. In fact, that first video is a kind of a bit of a like. It's not actually the first video. I don't know if I've actually got the first ever proper video still on the channel. I don't know if I deleted it. Maybe I've said it's private. I'm not sure. But I know it's not the first one, because I've called this first one, I've put HD at the end, which means that I obviously rendered it wrong to start with, without the HD setting on it, and then I re-uploaded it so that YouTube would put HD on it. But when I say HD, I mean 480p.
It's amazing, like the fact that we were so okay with 360p video back in the day, and now you open a 360p video and you like have to get up and lean and look at your screen. But no, I actually sent some of my old content to Dan as I was clearing through it, because we were on call, and he went, oh my God, it sounds like the microphone's in your throat. But back then I was on because I didn't start with like a headphone mic or anything. I went straight into, I had a condenser and I had a mixer. However, it was a Sub-Zero mixer, which is, I think, Gear for Music's own brand mixers. The mixer was all right, but I put it through its paces for many years. It cost me like 80 quid. It was a decent little mixer, like a little USB mixer.
Decent chunk to drop as well.
Well, because I had it for music recording originally, because again, this was back like I had a little bit of gear because of being a little artsy boy and doing all those kind of things. Just like, oh yes, I want to record music, because I was in bands and stuff back then. And then I had I think the brand was like Cool Breeze. It was like one of those really Amazon, oh yeah, this is not a great condenser microphone. But I've got that microphone. It was actually an alright mic, but there was just, so this was how convoluted the setup was, because obviously this was before really, so I was using it like in cohesion with like Voicemeeter. And like I had lines out of the mixer into a sound card, the USB of the mixer into the USB, and all sorts of things.
Oh, I remember that. Like, I remember building PCs and being like, oh, I've got to buy an extra sound card. And like now, nobody like thinks about. I mean, to be fair, I say, oh, nobody bothers about the sound card. It's because we don't use internal sound cards. We use external mixers that we plug everything into that. and the mixers are connected by USB, which works way better than the analog,
Yep, that's where all the preamp and stuff is these days. Yeah.
or at least reduces stuff. So everything now, yeah, it's still weirdly. I was about to say like, oh yeah, nobody buys anything additional. Yeah, we do. It's just it now sits outside,
No, we do. It's just all in one device now. Yeah, instead of 4.
bigger, and you don't even think. But those I remember like a Creative Sound Blaster X Wi-Fi 5.1 Dolby, that's what you'd end up looking, and you'd be like, oh, I'm spending like 140 quid on a sound. That's more than my graphics card, or
Yeah, it was back in the day. Yeah.
back then, yeah. You'd be like, I remember looking at and going, oh, I don't know if I want to get this £95 graphics card, but it is the GT version, or when you get optical in and out as well.
It's hilarious, but sound cards used to have the ability to put. They used to have the ability to put hi-fi cables into it. It was just like, oh, does anybody use hi-fi anymore? I don't even think anyone uses unless you're still using something from the 90s. I used to have monitoring. I was way ahead of my time. I had monitoring in my headphones. Here's the issue, though. It took me about 3 years to recognize this. All of my sound that I was monitoring was mono. This only really came into effect when I was playing Armor and needed directional sound, and everyone was like, Midge, what are your call outs? What? They're not on our left at all.
All the sound is around me all the time. There is no direction.
Turns out I only had left. So
Oh, no.
I had left on my left and left on my right.
Why does he keep getting shot from his right
Because
all the time?
it was a stereo line, right?
Oh,
it was
no.
a stereo line. It was outputting stereo, but because of the type of cabling and everything it was back then,
I feel like
only got monos. I only got half of the sound in both ears.
I feel like at some point every creator that's been going a while has done the thing accidentally where they've accidentally outputted their mic on just one channel by mistake.
Oh yeah.
I did it once. It was just in editing. Like I always record in stereo, or actually I record in mono and then it duplicates out or whatever. Because actually, I think this actually only records a single track, but then it duplicates out or something like that. I think I remember accidentally just clicking a button in Premiere Pro and it went mono just on the left, and then you inevitably then get the comments on YouTube. People are, oh, I can only hear that stuff out my left ear. I've gone deaf in my right, and everyone's like kind of trolling you in like a nice-ish way of trying to like let the creator like, hey creator, you messed up on your audio somewhere. And then it's always the rush of, do I take the video down? Do I re-upload it? How far along has it got? It's been out too far. It's got too many views. Screw it. Just put a pinned comment, or well, once pinned comments existed. Otherwise, you go through and just reply to every single comment that's saying, you're like, yes, I know, it'll be fixed next episode. Blah, 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 blah. Each creator has their own threshold for when they feel it's worth, pulling down. For me, it's usually, okay, it's got like 1,000 or 2 views. I'll be like, it's out now. It's fine. I can't, if I haven't caught it within the first 5 minutes, fine. Yeah. Unless I notice that it has got huge chunks missing, or like it's just like the video stopped at something like I think every creator's done the whole, you've got your audio channels wrong at some point, and also a point where the screen's gone black for like 20 minutes, or you've missed out a bit, and it's just like, oh, the video is cool, but what was that 15 minute of like just black and nothingness in the middle, and you're like, oh no, I checked it twice, and why? Like, oh.
Here's the great one. I did this week. It's that you're muted whilst on stream.
Oh no.
So I muted myself to sneeze.
Oh, and you didn't unmute. Oh no, I've only done it a few times. Luckily, it was only for about 5
minutes, but the longest I've gone muted on stream, I think, is about half an hour.
Oh no, that's impossible. You for not telling him. Like, that's the thing as well. Like, sometimes chat's really on it, and they'll tell you straight away. And then sometimes it'll be like 10, 15 minutes, and someone will be like, oh, what's up with the sound? And you're suddenly like, what? And you're like, why did nobody say? Like,
it's because I think it's nice because it's one of those things of the style of content I think that I do, especially when streaming, is styles that people put onto their second monitor and do work to. So, and then they go back and they go, are you meant to be muted? And I'm like, unmute.
Or it's when you see the comments like, is anyone going to tell him? And you're like,
or just please, if you're a chatter, always, if you think
please
there's
flag
an
up,
issue,
yeah.
Like I'd rather
you're not disrupting the stream. You're helping the stream.
Yes.
Like,
you're
seriously,
helping our
because
sanity.
if I suddenly realize I've spent 3 hours and the audio's been messed up the whole time and nobody's told me, because I've had that once or twice, or people just, and I don't know if some people like they just don't want to interfere. Like, you don't worry, just tell us, like, nice and friendly. It's all good.
I wish I was more on it on checking as well, because I've definitely done like 8 hours of recording no audio. I've been there. Luckily, those mistakes we can just be. That's us.
Yeah.
We just have to put up with those.
Oh,
But
it's fine.
life is always.
I
one of
didn't
those
need to
things
feel
of,
like I wasted my day. Thanks, me.
Thank you, me.
That is the worst, because especially if you're doing like a let's play, you know you've then got to go back and replay it and re-commentate, and potentially, depending on maybe the type of game, you've got to be like, oh, I'm surprised that this thing happened that I totally didn't know was coming up because I've already done this once. It's all part of the illusion, all part of the magic that comes together.
I have also flip-flopped. So the first mic was in condenser. Then I went to, oh gosh, is it MLG? Is the
You're already ahead of me, because I started off with a headset mic.
oh nice.
A Plantronics. I think that's actually how I got like maybe even like my first headset sent to me by a company to review, because I made a point that I was still using headset mics to try and make content, and I think I've been going for like a couple of years at that point, and I've been slowly but surely trying to find headsets that had better quality mics, and I found that actually the analog ones with the separate pink and green cables had better quality than USB, because the USB would focus on the playback being better, and also USB, you know, back then they hadn't configured the quality to be as good through the USB and what have you. Kind of is maybe still the case today, to be honest. There's very few headset makers out there that actually prioritize really making a top quality, like a studio grade microphone. There are one or two in terms of gaming headset makers, because you can get lots of aerodynamic headsets. I actually used a aerodynamic, like one that typically gets used in production and stuff like that. I use one of those for content creation. It's an XLR plug-in for it, and then you have a big old, like, what is it, like a 1/8 jack that you then have to get probably an adapter to plug it into a 3.5 or whatever. I used that for ages, and that was great. But then I got fed up with it, because I was like, well, the microphone's great and it's here, rather than having something in front of me or boom arm coming. My biggest pet peeve, creators that have the boom arm coming across you.
That was me until very, very recently. I used to have a thing like that the entire time.
It just takes up so much space. Like, it's so bad. But I will give most creators a pass, and myself included, why we didn't move away from that sooner is because there wasn't really any mounting options to have it not coming across, because it was the big scissor arms, and it would just naturally come down like that. So you'd have like your whole, so my first test case of trying to make the scissor arm not come across me was essentially to mount it so far away that it would pull completely flat, so it would stretch out as this one long arm. It had to have a little bit of a little bit of elevation, a little bit of a kink in it, so that my right arm could fit under with my mouse. There we go. For demonstration.
I wanted to get an example for demonstration. This is actually I think this is my more recent one. This thing is huge as well. So imagine this here with that previous mic I had on screen on. Like, how much of the frame is that covering?
So what I did with that to try and was stretch it all the way out and mount it as far over onto the right as possible to turn it into a long arm, and then flip the connector from facing down to facing up.
Did it that way, essentially.
Yeah, or like that. I think my I couldn't do it like that though, because then the mounting
right
bit at that point. So I had to sit that way, and then had to have a little bend in it so I could fit my arm through for the mouse. And then I did that, and then suddenly only like this bottom corner here would ever have the microphone coming in. Much better, because it's not obstructing your face. But I mean, so because I started off with the headset mics. I went to mic arms and stuff like that with condensers and what have you, Blue Yeti and everything. But then I went back to this aerodynamic one, because I was like, I'm fed up of having stuff around me. If I just had put this on, that's it. That's the, you then have the microphone. That's the look sorted. But I then wanted to move away from that after a couple of years, because I was like, you know what? The headset's not the comfiest, because it's not necessarily built for comfort. It's built for studio quality. I will forgive vast majority of creators that had that scissor arm, obstruction, because then I discovered low profile microphone mounts and boom arms, and there's quite a few out there now. There's loads, in fact. The one I think we both use is the Elgato low profile.
Yes, I'm using the Elgato as well, just because of ease with it, and it has it. But there are,
and still you can have it coming off from the side. But one I would suggest you try, have it coming out from underneath your monitor. So that's how I have it right now. It means that if I ever pushed it flush against the monitor, it would actually block some space. but I've got it so it's the monitor nearly sits on the bottom of it, and I've got it like to the precision like distance so that it doesn't block any of it, and it comes directly to me, and it means I've got space either side for keyboard and mouse. It's not blocking anything. Okay, you have a little bit here, but you typically would probably trim your camera around about this point, so you just see a little bit of the fluff, the cover, and that's it. And it's such a better experience that even if you can't have it coming straight at you, even if you're coming off from the side, still miles better, because the whole point of having a face camera, if you're streaming, is for people to see this. If people are seeing like this as part of the shot, it's kind of like you'd be better off just not bothering with a face cam. Especially if you then green screen, it also looks really weird having something randomly come out, especially if you then don't position your camera against the side of the frame. If you just sit middle of it because either the UI of the game dictates that that's probably the best spot for you, CK3, or you just feel like living like an absolute renegade and floating somewhere in the screen rather than positioning yourself at the side, then it just adds an calm down, camera. Okay,
that was a fun one.
We're talking about audio issues today. Could you not? Video issues another time, all right?
Cameras is the next one now. You put
Behave.
yourself on a list. You've done it.
You know what? This like teeny tiny segue. This is my Elgato cam link that if it is not positioned in specifically to within a millimeter of it being happy, it will start doing that and start cutting out every so often. And I've gone through 2 of them, and I don't know what it is, but if the cable isn't resting the perfect way, it will just be like, I'm just going to randomly start causing trouble for you.
I would hazard a guess that it's probably because of how popular the Elgato systems are, production standards probably went slightly down to meet demand. That would be...
Yeah, contacts probably are not as premium as they used to be. They're just kind of slapping in any old bits they can get in there rather than making it the top gold standard that it should be for premium connection. Or it could be something totally else and we have no idea what it is because yay.
Again, that's where we kind of come down to, because there's so many things that can go on with audio and or cameras or anything that you just go, oh, I don't know what's going on. That's fine. Like a friend of mine right now is getting this is a camera thing again, but every now and then their camera is starting to lag the more the stream goes on, and it's only in OBS. And it's like I've been trying to help sort the thing, and I've gone through. Okay, is it the firmware of the camera? Is it the things that can't currently find any of the issues?
What would you say is more frustrating? Audio issues or video issues?
For me, audio, 100%, because in the same way of, I think it goes back to like the old Let's Play, because my stream can continue without a camera. My stream cannot continue without me speaking, because that is me. I've flip-flopped over the years of what I've used as well, just to wind all the way back to that. So I started with that random condenser mic. Then, I don't know on the order of it, I went to another MLG condenser, which is a brand of, I think it's, oh no, MXG. MXG is the thing. And then I went for BCD1 broadcaster mic, and that was a dynamic microphone, which I really liked. It also looks really nice, and I think I've still got it. I've still got every microphone that I have. A lot of them are in storage, because a lot of them, I always bought microphones with the option of, can I use this for music? Now, BCD1 was the first one that I couldn't, which is again kind of why it fell out of the rotation of my use. In fact, it's something that I should probably, for example, if I ever build a nice studio, nice podcast studio, which is my dream, or a nice content creation studio, which is my dream, it will be one of those ones that is on regularly use probably, because it is essentially shape-wise very much similar to the SM7B. It's a dynamic microphone, doesn't have any of the bells and whistles on it, but it is a good, like, nice, warm mid-tone broadcasting mic made for vocal use, and it was a lovely mic. It was about 200-300 quid. No, it's about 200 quid I think these days. Any mic we like name shout out, we should also probably put in the description or the show notes. If you're on a podcast app, they will be over there. And then I went from that, and then I went back to a condenser mic, which again, if you don't know the difference between dynamic, condenser, shotgun, we should probably cover that in this episode. But then I went to briefly Was it then that I jumped straight to my baby bottle, which I loved this microphone. It's huge, it was gangly, and I don't think I'd use it again now that I'm not using an arm like this, because one thing I will say is, like, with the arm coming in, at least this microphone looked nice and therefore had a bit of style to it, and therefore had a thing. But this is blue. They don't make these anymore. You can still get them, but they're a pain to get parts from because Blue were bought by Logitech, and I don't even think you can get like the Blue Yeti properly outside of the multitudes that they made in production. There's thousands of them. They won't ever like be not sold for a long time.
In the post-nuclear war apocalyptic landscape, there will be Twinkies and Blue Yetis. That's it. That's all that survive.
I will say I could brick someone with this. This is a weighty microphone, which is another reason this mic arm was so chonky, is because it needed to be able to hold, this is at least 1.5 kilograms, 2 kilograms, because it's all solid metal. And it is, one of the nice things actually, I might be able to show you the internals of this microphone. It comes out, so yeah, because it's a cardioid condenser mic, which is a fancy way of saying it. It's one of it's the pickup pattern and what's inside. And then for a brief time when this started playing up, I went to a Rode shotgun mic, which I had mounted above when this started playing up. And then when this died for good, I switched to the SM7DB. And in that time, I've also audio interface wise, I went from that Sub-Zero mixer. I then went to a Focusrite Scarlett 16 channel because I was again doing music at the same time.
I had a Focusrite Solo for a long time.
Yeah, I had a Focusrite, and then I went to the Go XLR. So this is what they look like on the inside. Actually, the issues I had with this microphone is these are the switches to change like the bass cut. And
we now have
cut.
to tag this as not safe for work because you're stripping microphones on podcast.
It's like that. Paint me like one of your French girls, Jack from Futurama, because there's even like little.
Show me all your circuits. Yeah.
Yeah. It's show me the circuits. It's show me your.
Yeah, there are microphone boobs.
It's got microphone boobs, but those are the switches. And literally week one of having this microphone, the little plastic. / brass caps that were on there and poking out of this case sheared off and just went boom. I was like, well, those settings are set forever. I went to this. I love this mic. If I can get myself, these are cheap now. Actually, I will say this was about 400 quid when I bought it. These are now like 150 to 200. So if you can get one and you need it, this sounds really nice if it's up against an amplifier to record a guitar as well, because it's really warm, like kind of classic sound. If you are looking for a nice stylish looking mic, the blue baby bottle SL, sleek, lovely little thing. Just if it breaks, you're probably out of luck for parts. So I went Focusrite Scarlett, went to the Go XLR, which I loved, but then I got scared when they stopped updating it. Damn UTC Helicon, and they got rid of their department, so they weren't going to be doing those things. And that's when I took the punt and bought the Rode Procaster 2. Plus, I was doing a lot more field work studio-wise. I was like, I need something with more than one channel, because quite a lot of the things, I'm going to events now and I'm doing stuff where it's like, there's 3 casters, and I have, if I took a Go XLR to that, I was like, I have 1 mic input. That's my audio history, I guess. Did you have a microphone before you went to the Shure SM7B? What did you use before that?
Yes, I've said I had headset microphones to start with. But then the first microphone I had was a Blue Yeti, because I felt like it was just part of like that was the microphone to have back in like 2010, 2011. If you were a creator of any kind, you had the big silver microphone.
Anyway, so I used a deep gray Blue Yeti for a little while when I was doing some on the road work. Actually, that's another thing that another mic that I have in my collection of mics is I have the Razors. You know, Razer bought out a tiny little microphone.
Was it like, it looked like the Loch Ness Monster thing?
Oh, it's
Or am I thinking of something completely different?
It's this.
The little. Oh no, not the little.
Yeah, no,
it's sneaky one. Yeah,
these are like 30 quid, and honestly, the sound profile on this for a USB microphone was really nice. The problem is, you can't take it off the stand. It's tiny, and you kind of need it to be here.
Yeah, and if it can't come off the stand, it means it's going to pick up everything on the desk, which is going to be.
Maybe it can.
Keyboard
it can come off the stand.
You unscrew it?
I think you can actually. I lied.
10 years
lied.
later, he's like, I can unscrew it.
Yeah, you can take it off. Okay, so that's my bad.
You have besmirched the name of the House of Razor.
You can take it off the leg. Although I do like that this little stand that they provide with it does articulate slightly, so you can change the angle and stuff.
That's kind of fun and probably still really pointless for not being here.
So I lied. It can come off, but I'm also looking at the profile of this screw, and I don't know how deep it could get onto a thing, because that's like not even half of my fingertip in before it hits a screw. So I don't think it would screw onto a lot of boom arms. And considering you need it about there for it to work properly is a little bit thing. Anyway, I'm gonna keep besmirching the name of Razor, clearly. But for 30 quid.
Please let the thumbnail for this podcast be the moment where you're like Blue Yeti. Then oh god, I mean I ran with that for years. Then I had an Audio Technica AT2020. Trying to think, did I get the USB version or did I get the XLR one? I think that was the first time I went into XLR, because that's when I also then bought the Focusrite Scarlett Solo and then used that for a bit. Then switched to the Beyerdynamic Studio XLR mic because the Focusrite had all the plugins for that, and so it worked. And then from that, I think I actually went back to the AT2020 for a bit and just tried to position it a bit better. And then got this because I was like, I did one of those things where I spent like 3 weeks watching videos about this, watching other creators with it, and then figuring out that this was supposedly was meant to be really good. Plugged it into the Focusrite because I foolishly didn't do enough research about that side of things, realizing it didn't have enough preamp to boost it, and was like, why is this so quiet? This is terrible. I think I then went back to the headset, Beyerdynamic one, for a bit and left this in a box. Then went, no, people use this and it's really good. Why can't I make it sound like that? And then finally twigged that I needed a better mixer. I think I then got a cloud lifter to plug into the Focusrite, which just about made it work, but I was still like, I'm not really that happy with it. And then I think around that time, that's when the Go XLR came out, and I went, fine, I'll buy one of those and plug it in. And then since then, that's been my setup, the Shure SM7B and the Go XLR, and it's worked. I'm gonna have a terrible stream this afternoon now with like I've just, like we're going through all the possible jinxes of things that can.
Well, I'm hoping we can like soften it out. Like we get through so many of them, it resets. Like
I don't want it to reset. No, but that'd be tech issues. They never go away. They just reset eventually, and they come back round.
Yeah, it's
you'll never clear it. You can never be free of the curse.
It's like a shuffled deck of cards. One day you'll draw that Joker. It's like that's probably the best way to get tech issues. But I think that's a really good. So that's your history as well, and I think that's a really good segue into the differences in microphones and doing research, because the SM7B, if you have the DB, you need it less, but the SM7B is religiously requires a lot of gain, and that's one of the reasons is it's a dynamic microphone. So there's kind of 3 types. Actually, I'm going to say 4. There's 4 types of microphone. There's dynamic, condensers, shotguns, and then USB, because I'm going to put USB in its own category, because whilst technically they are condensers for the most part, some are actually just dynamic, but there's like no real discernible. It's hard because that's less about capture profile of the microphones, etc., because all of them are going to be different because a lot of it's digitally done, but more about the connectivity type. Dynamic microphones they do not require external power. They are normally straight on. It is like a single cone towards a microphone. It's what you will see singers use on stage. It's what you've probably held in karaoke. The SM7B is a dynamic microphone, and they don't require what's known as phantom power. Condenser mics and shotgun mics will require phantom power, which is essentially a little 48-volt signal that gets sent back through the XLR to power the microphone, to power part of the amplification of the microphone. And then because of that, they tend to have a wider pickup pattern or multi-directional pickup patterns. A lot of USB mics will be condenser mics because they will receive power through the USB cable. So for example, this mic, the blue Baby Bottle SL, this is a condenser mic. It had a pickup pattern on both sides. I could switch the shape of it, which would be different for vocal types. And this is a very big generalization. Finally, you have shotgun mics, which are essentially a condenser mic that is aimed, and they produce a cone because they have a capture pattern. If I take the windsock off this one, or the thing, they have a capture pattern all along the side, and at the end they produce a cone-like shape, which means these are really good for rooms and environments. One of the big things that's happening more and more right now, talking back to getting microphones out of your face, one of the things you can do if you've got a really nicely treated space and you're not going to make too much noise is actually just rigging a shotgun mic into your office, etc. as a streamer can be a good way to do it.
That's what I'm going to be trying to do in the new space, because I should say in between the 80-20-20 and this, I spent nearly £1,000.
Lovely shotgun mic.
Yeah, probably like the tits of shotgun mics. The Sennheiser, what's it, like the M416? I think now it's about 700 quid, but it is still an absolutely incredible bit of kit. And like looking back, I'm like, why? I mean, probably tax expense. It was definitely expense that year. I still have that, and it comes in like this really nice fancy box. And I mean, it's probably somewhere back there. I mean, I'm going to take like one moment to check Lionheart's drawer of mystery.
Lionheart's drawer of mystery. Lionheart has a drawer of mystery. Midgeman has a cupboard of doom, which I've accidentally left the door open of, and I just see my Go XLR peeking out of.
I found
it. Just staring at me. Oh, there it is.
So there it is.
Got the beautiful thing.
So it comes in this, and
it's got a good case.
So yeah, this is the MKH 416P48. If it's gonna focus, probably not. My beard is too majestic for it to focus on. I'll just hold it like here.
And it went in. That's brilliant.
There we go. So yeah, that's it, with literally just XLR connection at the end, 3 pins.
So a lot of these will have the ability to, if you've got a mixer, you can send phantom power for them. But also for field work, a lot of shotgun microphones will have, if I unscrew the back of this, a place to put a AA battery.
Really?
Did you not know that? That's how you get phantom power to them in the field. You can probably unscrew it and you'll have a battery. Because these do not require as much phantom power as a condenser normally.
Breaks really expensive microphone trying to unscrew it. It doesn't unscrew. There was a teeny tiny little flathead in there, so I don't know if I've got to loosen that first.
Maybe you might actually have to unscrew.
I'm not going to start taking apart the really expensive microphone.
Do not break it live on this.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, we'll get it for the views. Like Lionheart breaks expensive microphone for for the views. That would be
for the TikToks, right? That's what the kids do these days. Oh god, I feel old. I bought this, plugged it in once because I thought, I don't know why I thought. I didn't really think. I knew it would take a while, but I was like, I've got a couple of hours before I'm going to stream. I'll try and redo my whole audio setup in that time. No, yeah. I managed to get it out of shot, like just there, but obviously it's picking up everything because I need to spend loads and loads of time narrowing in that cone and obviously tweaking it with compressor and everything else and noise gate. Initially in the new space, when I go to it, I will just move straight, like the current setup straight over. But then when I've got some time, I will probably dabble and see if I can get this boy just sat like just up here. The thing that's going to be difficult is it's got to be picking me up, but not too close to then in the cone to pick up like keyboard and mouse and stuff.
The other way, you could always go upwards. So like you have it right now. Yeah. So like put it under the monitor with the mic facing up, so your hands are underneath it with the keys and the cone, but the point the thing is going up that way. Everyone always forgets the.
Are you happy to see me, or is it just your mic?
But yeah, so actually, Alex Jordan, friend of ours, will be on the podcast at some point.
We'll have to talk through his setup and audio, and
he's now using a shotgun mic as his main two-face microphone, because it is another good thing, because shotguns are designed to pick up voices.
Oh, I've got little adapters. Oh,
that's the thing. Dynamics are designed for voices. Condensers were originally designed for voices and instruments. Shotguns are to try and get voices in a space.
It's what's typically used in like a BBC interview, like out and about. They'll especially when they do like that far shot, like the camera's like the other side of a road, but the reporter's the other side or whatever, and they're just getting some background. They'll have a shotgun mic that is pointed over towards that point, even if they're a good, 10, 20 meters away.
What I will say is, you, instead of spending all the money on one of these, for example, one of the SM7, you don't need to do that first. Some shotgun mics, if you get the attunement quite right, you can have them like where they're slightly lower gain, so it's not picking up a lot of your room, and you use them in your face like you would this. They can sound beautiful.
Oh yeah,
they really can.
That's probably where I'll start with this. Have it almost in the same position, and then slowly walk it back to see how far I can go while keeping that quality. But I mean, this will probably actually sound better than that, just because it'll be even narrower than this. I mean, I don't know about you. I've seen some streamers use the SM7B side on, and I'm like, there's no...
A lot of people would see they're talking into it like this, and their voice is going past it. I'm like...
You want it direct because there's no side pickup. It's only at the top.
There is a slight... Yeah, there is a slight
There's a slight
it's...
bit, because it curves a little bit
yeah,
at the top of the capsule. But if you're going here, and you're wondering why does it not sound good...
I'm going to do something disgusting. I'm sorry, everybody's ears. I'm going to try and take the sock off, because you can actually see the inside. So the actual bit that's picking you up is here. So if you're talking here, you do get it, but you're going across the front of the microphone.
And it's built to channel it down straight onto the top of the capsule. So yeah, it's not that it won't work that way, but you'll end up having to do more either pre or post processing, changing some other bits and pieces. Have it front on if you can. We all understand, though, how difficult it is to get that positioning, but there are ways to do it now with lower profile boom arms and things like that. But yeah, you ideally want it straight on, or going over the top of it like this way, then trying to go across it or anything else.
What I will say, actually, an unfortunate thing about the Magnus Pro and how big it is that the low profile boom arm isn't long enough. So I like for me to be central as to where I have everything on the desk, it's here. Like, so it's ever so slightly off. I have to have everything slightly shuffled.
Or what, from the side, because you have it coming from the side. Right, yeah.
Yeah, because it's coming from the side, because the reason I can't go straight on, which I'd love to do, my monitor is, because I've got monitor, this one is quite low, and there's not enough clearance between it and the desk.
That's something I also thought about, because ideally when I do the new setup, I want to move away from having the camera off center here. I want it on top of the monitor, and the only way to do that is to lower your monitor, your front, and probably tilt it a little bit to you, and then probably have the top one angled a little bit, so you've almost kind of got like a little bit like a clamshell. Obviously that's way over exaggerated.
I just have a gap between my...
Yeah, because either you go for a gap, but then that's just, even that little gap, if you have to look at that top one, it makes you look like you're going hi up there. How's my chin and my neck, everyone?
So that's me looking, this is me looking at my top monitor right now, and you can see that there's a very visual.
I, for a while, had an ultra-wide bottom tilted.
You had an ultra-wide bottom, did you?
Deadass! That's 3 C's thick, all right? I used to have the ultra-wide along the bottom, but obviously ultra-wide's no good to record content in, because 21:9 is not a format that's going to translate well. I mean, video, you could probably get away with it, because like obviously most mobile devices are close to 21:9, or they're in that weird aspect ratio bit where they're not full 16:9, they're not full ultra wide, they're somewhere in between. But ultra wide content on a phone, like video content, isn't that bad. But stream wise, there are people that stream in ultra wide, my brother included, to be fair, but it still doesn't fully translate that well. And I mean, there's never going to be a way to do it unless you have dynamic scaling available on the web browser and all the apps, because the only other way to do it would be you'd have to run almost 2 instances of the same game, one at 16:9, and then say, oh, I also want to run the same instance at 20. But then you've got double the power. Like, it's never going to happen, because also you'd have to have the UI elements all rescaling dynamically. Never going to happen. But I used to have this ultra wide along the bottom tilted up, and then above it I used to have my 16:9 1440p monitor, and I used to record off the top one. And I spent about a year like this. And my neck was because I was like, I want to use this beautiful ultra wide, but I don't know. Back then, somehow I had some free time to play games that wasn't a part of Chrono, and I'd play that on the ultra wide, because if you've never played on ultra wide gaming is glorious. If you're not interested in content creation,
I've never played on an ultra wide.
If you don't need to stream, if you don't, an ultra-wide monitor is a solid upgrade if your GPU's powerful enough with that extra space, because you've got just more screen space, especially if you're into like your racing sims, flight stuff. But even not that, even like for me, like strategy games, Total War, having that extra screen space, oh, it's glorious. It is beautiful. And this is coming from someone that needs a standard aspect ratio of 16:9 to do their job. If I could, I would give it up in a heartbeat to do it on 21:9 on ultra wide, because it is glorious. It is glorious. And yeah, I would say if you are looking for that one bit of setup upgrade to really take your if you feel like you've got a powerful PC and you're just thinking like something maybe missing, I'm not quite getting that full experience, rather than going for a 4K monitor, go for an ultra wide. Go for a nice 21, get one that's slightly curved as well. There's some lovely ones out there, and you'll not regret it. You'll not regret it. You'll only regret it if you then need to do content creation, because you'll be like, oh, either I have to change the resolution on the ultra wide and put black bars on it, which why would you want to do that? Because that's what I did for a while as well. I would record off the bottom ultra wide, but I'd just change the resolution at the start of the day, and then afterwards I'd change it back to ultra wide. I'd be like, this is silly. I would love to get back to, I would love to somehow, but there's no way to do it. If you don't have the ultra wide on the bottom, you can't put an ultra wide up top because it will look ridiculous.
I've seen it. I have seen it. I was yeah.
Oh yeah. Hopefully we'll see it in some of it. No, maybe we won't see it in some of your setup pics, but send in the setup pics. But yeah, but that's my thought is like, okay, if I want to put the camera up top, where does this boom arm go? My only thought is I have a gap between primary monitor and portrait monitor to the side. I'm thinking I move the boom arm to come through that gap because there's enough movable parts that it could come through and then it would still hit me from the front. But then I've got to bear in mind that if the monitor's lower, the boom arm's going to potentially sit in front of it. The setup streams that I do of it will be pure chaos.
Oh, I look forward to that chaos.
It's going to be a laptop set up in a corner and a camera pointed at me in a mixed state of desperation, sweat and tears while building stuff.
And in this closing, just because I think we need to round out now, because we've been rambling a little bit on this one, plus we want to try and get a second one in today.
Giddy.
The last thing I want to say, and you're going to giggle at this one as well, is mic placement. And that is the best place to have your mic is between 4 and 6 inches from your mouth.
4 and 6, yeah.
I think
so
it's about
either do it with your fingers or
you know, depending on what your favorite form of measurement is.
I don't think anyone's ever gone, you know what, to measure this, I'm just gonna flop out and be like, is that, do you imagine that conversation? Sorry, wife, could you just tell me, is that, do you reckon that's the 6 inches there? It's a bit cold today, love, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Who's done that? Who's that?
Someone has.
Someone definitely.
Has. At the end of the day, people are trying to hear you, so set it up to hear you. And that's where we'll round out today. So thank you for watching yet another episode of Upload. If you've liked, remember to like or rate and review us. It really helps us out. And if you want to get in touch with the podcast, go over to hello@uploadpodcast.co.uk. And we will see you next time we upload.
It's plug and play, and they do just work. They integrate with OBS nicely.
Especially their cheaper models. They probably have the best, like, cheaper models. And then I'm say go to the Razer Keo or to an Elgato probably for the cam. You don't need to go DSLR.
I would say it's something to consider if you already have a DSLR cam, then it's probably worth the investment to then look at the capture card.
Oh, absolutely. Due to the cam link instead.
Either the cam link or the internal one. If you've already got a good camera, the one thing to bear in mind is you need to be able to have it a camera that has an HDMI out or an HDMI mini out, and it needs to also be able to output in a clean display output in a I can't remember what the specific.
It's like a monitor mode where it gets rid of all of the camera stuff.
Yeah, it's a monitor mode, or it's like, I think on mine it's called clean HDMI, and essentially what that means is it removes the little recording flashing bit or the bit going no SD card, no battery, or because you don't want it, otherwise all that will show up.
I wonder if I can make mine show up. No, I can't. Okay.
I know how I can do it, but I don't want to do it in case it upsets the cable gods.
Yeah, so it's, yes, absolutely. If you've already got one.
You don't need to go into thinking content creation, oh, basically from listening to these guys, it sounds like I need to spend $1,000 on all the upgrades, all the software, all the hardware.